The movie starts by introducing us to Pi Patel, an interesting middle-aged man living in Canada. One day, a young rider approaches him, eager to know more about his life story. At first, Pi is hesitant, but eventually, he opens up and begins recounting his incredible journey. In a flashback, we learn that Pi's parents named him after a swimming pool in France called Molitor. However, his classmates in Pondicherry Secondary School mockingly call him Pissing Patel. To escape their teasing, Pi adopts the nickname Pi after the mathematical constant 3.14. Pi's exceptional talent for memorizing and reciting numbers becomes evident when he amazes his classmates and professors by flawlessly reciting pi to the 100th digit. From that day on, Pi becomes a legend at his school, earning the admiration and respect of his peers. Pi's upbringing is a unique blend of spirituality, science, and a deep love for animals. Raised in a Hindu household, his curiosity leads him to explore other religions like Christianity and Islam, with the support of his open-minded mother. However, his father, a practical man of science, dismisses religion as a source of darkness and advocates for a more rational approach to life. Despite their differences, Pi's parents instill in him a profound respect for all living creatures, and he spends much of his childhood watching and caring for the animals in his father's zoo. It is revealed that his father owns a zoo, while his mother is a botanist. Pi is particularly fascinated by a Bengal tiger named Richard Parker, whose majestic presence captivates him. He feels an unexplainable connection with the tiger and believes that with kindness, wild animals can become great companions to humans. One day, Pi attempts to feed a Bengali tiger Richard Parker with his hand, but his father catches him and scolds him for getting too close to such a dangerous animal. Later, Pi is traumatized when he witnesses the tiger devouring a goat that his father had tied in front of it as a lesson. This experience shatters Pi's belief that wild animals can be friendly companions, and he accepts that they can never be tamed or domesticated. Despite this, his love and fascination for animals remain, and he continues to care for them with great respect and admiration. The scene then shifts to a few years later when Pi is now 16 years old. He spends most of his free time reading novels and studying philosophy to understand the meaning of life. One day, he meets a girl named Ananda, and they quickly become friends. Pi is eager to share his passion for animals with her and takes her to the zoo to meet Richard Parker. However, Pi's happiness is short-lived as his father informs the family that they must leave India due to the economic downturn. They plan to sell the animals and settle in Canada. Pi is devastated by the sudden decision but feels powerless to stop it. Days later, he says his final goodbye to Ananda and boards a Japanese freighter with his family. On the ship, Pi and his mother order vegetarian meals for supper, but the chef still serves them meat. Pi's mother insists on her preferred option, but the chef refuses. This angers Pi's father, and he engages in a heated argument with the chef. However, another passenger arrives and offers them his meal. After that, Pi's father administers medication to the animals, explaining that it helps them cope with the difficulties of sea travel. Later, the ship arrives at the Mariana Trench and Pi wakes up due to the sounds of the storm. At first, he enjoys the rain, but soon realizes that water has entered the ship. He desperately tries to find his family, but everywhere he looks, there is water. He rushes to where the others are and asks for their help in saving his family, but they are all busy preparing the lifeboats. Just then, a crew member hands him a life vest and urges him to leave. However, Pi refuses to go without his family and declares that he will find them. Despite the heavy storm, the crew pushes him into the boat. Suddenly, a zebra jumps into the same lifeboat and the rope snaps, pushing them further away from the sinking ship. Pi shouts desperately as he watches the cargo ship sink into the Mariana Trench. Devastated, he doesn't have time to mourn as he notices someone swimming towards him. He goes to help, only to discover that it is Richard Parker, a deadly tiger. Horrified, Pi swims away to escape, but realizes he has no choice but to return to the lifeboat. The next morning, Pi finds himself in the lifeboat with a wounded zebra. They are soon joined by an orangutan and a spotted hyena. The hyena attacks and kills the zebra in front of the terrified animals. Pi discovers a survival guide and various supplies in the boat. With a renewed sense of determination, he crafts a makeshift raft using the life jackets and oars. With a renewed sense of hope, Pi sets out on his raft, determined to find a way back to civilization. However, his peace is short-lived when the hyena suddenly appears and attacks the orangutan, tearing into her flesh and causing her to perish. Pi is forced to watch in horror as the hyena turns its attention towards him, ready to strike. But just as the beast lunges towards him, a new ally emerges, Richard Parker, the fierce Bengal tiger from the zoo that was also on the ill-fated ship. He immediately tussles with the hyena and finishes it in seconds. Witnessing all this, Pi flees the boat and boards his raft. In the next scene, while Parker is napping, Pi slips back to the boat to get more provisions when he notices a rat scurrying around the supplies. Parker unexpectedly awakens, so Pi feeds him with a rat and returns to his raft. As night falls, Pi finds himself consumed by memories of his past life and his family. He looks up at the stars and sees the faces of his loved ones, feeling a deep sense of loss and sadness. But he also remembers his mother's words of encouragement and draws strength from her memory. He takes out a book and a pencil and begins to write a message, pouring his heart and soul onto the page. He puts the message in one of the water cans, hoping that someone will find it and come to the rescue. Later, Pi uses the procedures outlined in the manual to forcefully shake the boat, causing Parker to experience seasickness. He tries to split the area with the tiger by peeing at first, but Parker pees all over his face. Pi has biscuits and water, but Parker is hungry and has nothing to eat. He knows that if he does not feed the tiger, he may attack him. So Pi begins fishing. Furthermore, he collects rainwater for them to drink. One day, when Parker jumps into the sea to hunt for fish to eat, Pi, in a desperate attempt to save his own life, decides to abandon Parker and flee to the lifeboat. However, his conscience won't allow him to leave the tiger behind to die. So, he lifts the tiger onto the boat and returns to his raft. Now alone in the vast ocean without any provisions, Pi struggles to survive. Days pass without food or water, leaving him weak, hungry, and with low spirits. But then, a glimmer of hope appears. Pi spots a large fish and manages to catch it. Grateful yet remorseful for taking a life, he whispers a prayer of thanks to God. Just as he prepares to share the fish with Parker, a massive whale unexpectedly overturns their raft, throwing all their provisions into the sea. Panic sets in as Pi realizes the dire situation they are in. However, a miracle occurs the next morning when a school of fish flies into the boat. Pi catches one with his bare hands and eats it raw, experiencing a foreign yet exhilarating taste. Filled with newfound energy and determination, Pi understands that survival means more than just catching fish. He must also take care of Parker, his only companion and source of comfort on this perilous journey. Gradually, Pi earns the tiger's trust and affection by providing him with food and water. One day, when Pi spots a passing ship, he sends out a distress signal, hoping for rescue. Despite his frustration when the signal goes unanswered, he refuses to give up hope. That evening, he experiences a mysterious and unbelievable event. A tornado of memories engulfs him at the exact location where various animals and even his mother's face appear. However, he knows that the ship carrying his family has been destroyed at sea. Despite this, he continues to write in his diary every day, hoping for salvation. But his condition deteriorates to the point where he can no longer distinguish between day and night, dreams and reality. One evening, in his state of confusion and drowsiness, a storm hits, causing the boat to violently shake and almost be swept away by the wind. The lifeboat is in a terrible state, filled with water and desperately in need of repair. Kneeling on the soaked canvas, he expresses gratitude to God for his miraculous survival. He then turns to Parker, the tiger, and urges him to also worship God. However, Parker is in an even worse condition than him. Pi approaches the tiger and places his hand on its head, finding solace and a connection with this wild animal who has become his companion. They both understand that they are in this struggle for survival together. In the next scene, they stumble upon a floating island abundant with edible plants, a mangrove jungle, freshwater pools, and a large population of meerkats. Overjoyed by this discovery, Pi and Parker eat and drink to replenish their energy. But at night, Pi senses that something is amiss on the island. The meerkats are behaving strangely, climbing up the trees. Parker also senses the oddity and returns to the boat. Pi then realizes that the water has turned acidic and the fish are decaying. He discovers a fruit and, upon opening it, finds a human tooth inside. It dawns on him that the island is carnivorous, devouring both humans and animals. The following day, Pi loads his boat with fresh water, and also gathers some plants, along with half a boat full of meerkats, were brought for Parker. He then whistles to the tiger, and they both get on the boat and start sailing. Gallant, the tiger, has a tendency to disappear when they leave, and no one has ever seen him again. After a few more days, they finally reach the Mexican coast on the lifeboat. Once back on land, Parker wanders off from Pi and stops at the edge of the jungle. Pi expects the tiger to turn towards him and acknowledge him, but instead, Gallant glances into the jungle for a few moments before entering. Pi, who is too weak to follow, just lies in the sand. He assumes that after living together for so many days, they had formed a close bond, but he was mistaken. Moments later, the local villagers find Pi, and he starts crying like a child. Not because he has been rescued, but because he has lost his closest friend, Parker, who was with him during the difficult times. Insurance agents from the Japanese business that owns the ship arrive to interview him, but they refuse to believe his story and ask for the truth. Pi then narrates an alternate story in which he shares the lifeboat with his mother, a Buddhist sailor with a damaged leg, and the cook. In this story, Pi claims that the cook killed the sailor to eat him and use him as bait. Later, Pi's mother moved him to safety on a smaller raft before the cook killed her and dumped her body overboard. Pi then seized the knife and murdered the cook, surviving on his flesh until he arrived in Mexico. The insurance agents are unsatisfied with the story and haven't further interrogated him. The writer notes parallels between the two stories. The orangutan was Pi's mother, the zebra was the sailor, the hyena was the cook, and Richard Parker was Pi himself. However, Pi claims that it doesn't matter which story is accurate because his family died either way and neither version satisfied the insurance company. He asks the writer which story he prefers, and the writer chooses the first one since it's the better story. Looking over a copy of the insurance report, the writer notices that the agents recorded that Pi survived 227 days at sea with an adult Bengal tiger. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. It will take 1 second of you, but a great milestone for us.